Fighting game archetypes. What makes one character different from another character? What makes Zangief different from Ryu and Ken? What makes Potemkin different from Soul Bad Guy? You know? What makes all these characters different from one another? Well, I'm going to be going over that. And other than the obvious stuff, which you'd have to be an idiot not to look at, such as character design. I mean, look, Potemkin's this big, muscular guy. Obviously, you're going to look at him and you're going to think, oh, he's going to do a ton of damage, right? Which he does. To be fair, he does. But, you know, there's movesets and there's different ways of going around things. There's different trends in certain fighting games, and I'm going to be going over all of them. So, stick by. Grab yourself a glass of, I don't know, anything. Grab yourself a glass of whatever's next to you and, you know, watch along. Alright, here we are in Street Fighter V. So, the first archetype I'm going to be showing you is the Shoto. Now, the Shoto is kind of your standard bread and butter fighting game archetype. They have every tool you need to be able to win a game. They don't often have losing matchups. They don't really lose to any individual character. What I say about them is they're good at everything, but great at nothing. So, for example, when it comes to Ryu, right? Ryu's the standard Shoto, right? You know, you have everything. You have a fireball, you know, this is to apply projectile pressure from afar. You know, you can dash in after it, apply some pressure here. His normals, he's got a standard overhead, he's got an anti-air. Everything you need, right? Everything. But none of them are exceptionally amazing. Sure, this anti-air is good. But it is your solid standard for an anti-air. So, what else makes a Shoto? Well, a Shoto always has a DP. A DP stands for Dragon Punch, and it is an invincible kind of combo breaker move, let's call it. Where basically, if I'm in the corner like this, if I want to get them off me, boom, they're off me. Now that's invincible to a certain frame, and it's also, in concept, very fast. It's a get off me tool. It's your get out of jail free card. The issue is, if your opponent predicts this, you're going to get real quickly punished. The whole point of a DP is that it's extremely unsafe if your opponent predicts it, if your opponent blocks it. So that's what makes a Shoto a Shoto. Shotos also have a spinning kick, like this. This usually does go through projectiles, but it doesn't have to. You know, some Shotos kind of don't have the ability to go through projectiles, but they trade that off with the ability of it moving a lot faster to get in a lot faster. So yeah, Shotos have good combos, decent zoning. Overall, they're just a fundamental character, and they're in the middle of it all, really. They can do anything, but not to an amazing extent. Alright, so again, we're back in Street Fighter V. I might just do the majority of this in Street Fighter V since it's such a fundamental game. It can basically teach you anything you need to about a fighting game, so I might just stick to that. This is Sagat. I've actually moved my camera to the right hand side of the screen so that you can actually fully see him, so I don't have to crouch constantly. And yeah, so Sagat is what we call a zoner, and zoners are very keep away characters. I mean, looking at the guy, you'd think he'd punch hard and he'd want to kick you, just do all sorts, but no, he actually wants to stay back and zone you out with plenty and plenty of fireballs. A big part of Sagat's game plan is just kind of hanging back, throwing out these fireballs. You know, you don't want your opponent to get close. So, how do you beat this, right? Because this seems infuriating. If you ever match up in someone like this, I mean, if you play an FPS, you know what it's like to be, you know, camped constantly, to be, I don't know, you know what it's like. And this is basically the equivalent of being sniped across the map. You'd hate to see it, right? You'd hate it to be you. So, you know, why does he want to do this? Why does he want to do this to you? Basically, because his fireball has such low recovery, and it travels so fast, and he has so many variants, you know, he can approach with it, mix up different options. He has so many ways of doing it, and it all stems from this fireball, so he wants the fireball to be on the screen as much as possible. So, stuff he can do from this is things such as, if he baits someone into jumping over the fireball, so you'd think, oh, well, I'll just jump over the fireball, easy, right? No, too close, you get uppercutted like that, you know? You get anti-aired, and you don't want that to happen to you, you know? Sagat, although he's a zoner, he does decent damage, and he gets all of that from kind of frustrating you and making you go, oh, just let me get in, let me get in, let me approach, you know? And he doesn't want to get that. He's got like plenty of anti-airs, you know, this'll hit you out the air, this'll hit you out the air. He's got long pokes, like this, you know, which, honestly, they are scary, but the weaknesses of a Zoner far outweigh, well, they don't outweigh the strengths, but it balances it out. So, once you're in against a Zoner, they don't have very good up-close options whatsoever. Sagat used to be different. Sagat used to have a fully invincible DP, but they did actually nerf that. The only way for his DP to be invincible is to use a bar of meter, like I just did there. So the big scary thing about all of that is, you know, like, the only way he can get someone off of him is by doing that. The only way he can truly get decent damage is by throwing fireballs and making the opponent and baiting him and punishing him constantly doing inputs all the time. And that is what balances a Zoner out, you know? Very strong in the far away game, pretty strong on the mid pokes game, you know? Pretty strong like this. He's got a big area of threat, much bigger than most characters, especially from a very far away distance. He will win most fireball wars when it comes to the kind of clashes in that sense. So yeah, Zoners usually are kind of like this. Sometimes they have a lot more than one projectile. Most of the time they do anyway. But another thing about archetypes is some archetypes beat others. Now, Zoners, obviously they don't beat Shotos. No one beats a Shoto because a Shoto basically goes even with just about everyone. But, okay, Zoners do lose naturally to rushdown characters, which I'll be going over soon, but they also absolutely destroy grapplers. Usually in most fighting games, the trend is rushdown beats Zoner, grappler beats rushdown, Zoner beats grappler. So it kind of goes in that triangle, and then obviously Shoto's just in the middle, safe from it all. So, next up is arguably one of the most fun archetypes, and these are called grapplers. Now, grapplers are known for being big bodies like Zangief. I mean, look at this guy. Look how big he is. And just very slow. Very slow. Look, I mean, his dash is so laggy. If he tries getting in like that, scary, you know? He's in a lot of lag. And he's very unsafe when doing that. So, with this complete lack of movement options, what can he actually do? You know? What is he good at? Because, you know, from looking at this, you know, his buttons aren't huge. They're not like Sagat big like I shown you earlier. Where's the reward in what he does? Well, the reward is the damage and the absolute advantage state you get on your opponent for hitting them. Grapplers are the ultimate mix-up, high-risk, high-reward characters. You're playing a risk by picking the character itself, because no doubt grapplers usually add kind of lower tiers of fighting game, but what makes a grappler so good is how scary they can be. At this range, a grappler's not threatening whatsoever. At this range, you know, they've got some pokes, they've got some okay pokes, you know, they might be a bit plus. The grapplers do usually nowadays have quite a lot of range, but the real fear is when you're like this close. Now, there's a reason they're called grapplers, and I'm actually going to move the camera to the side real quickly, just so that I can show you how much damage this command grab's going to do. There we go. Just so I can show you how much damage this is actually going to do. So, what's weird is Zangief is a full circle input, so it might get me a few times to get it. I don't usually play grapplers, but if you look at this damage, for a grab, for something that you can't block or shield, that's a hefty amount of damage. And what's also crazy about this is, after you do this, they're hard knockdown right next to him, so he can mix up with aerials, he can like mix up with meaties, get a few chains together, mix up with a normal grab, and then when he's like this, oh, now he's in the corner against a grappler. Oh no, the game's being snowballed, you know? What do you do at that point? Grapplers also do have a lot of really good close quarters moves. For example, this headbutt here if the opponent was to shield it, or block it even, it's actually very safe on block. So you can kind of do this a few times, bait him out, and then Buffy command grab. And then the real fear kicks in when you get that grab. And you know, it's so scary. It is so scary fighting against one of these characters, and so many people hate it because if you're expecting the command grab, you need to jump to avoid it. Anti-air, you know? They need to guess what you did right every single time, and it's terrifying. Again, these big body grapplers do basically 100% of the time lose to zoners. If Ken here was to be spamming fireballs, you know, Zangief, he wouldn't be too good. He's got this to get past him, but it barely moves him forward, and it's quite laggy, and he can be punished for it. It's an okay get off me tool, but that's just about it. But yeah, some grapplers are good, like Potemkin and Guilty Gear Strive is in grappler standards very good, but grapplers are usually slightly underplayed because they are obviously of the much lower tiers of fighting games, usually. So, the Rushdown archetype. The Rushdown archetype is always a good one. Unless there's some key mechanic which purposefully makes them bad, usually Rushdown is good unless the character's made to be bad for some reason. Cammy here is a Rushdown character, so what makes Cammy a Rushdown character? What makes her different from a Shoto or a Grappler or anything else? First of all, she has a very low health pool. If you had to hit Cammy, she'll take a lot more damage than the average character. Well, because of the options she has. So, she of course has a DP that covers anti-airs very well, may I add. So, she has that, which is already huge. Having a DP in a fighting game is massive. It adds a separate option in disadvantage that you can use whenever, right? But, you know, Shotos have DPs. You know what I mean? A lot of characters have DPs. So, why is she different? So, unlike most characters that I've shown you, she doesn't have a projectile. Instead, she has multiple different mix-up options. She has her aerial command grab, where she can go in the air and go, BAM! Aerial. But, out of that, she can just leave it and do that. She can do this. She has a lot of options to her disposal, right? A lot of options to her disposal. A lot of ways to mix people up. As well as this, she's very fast. She can move around the screen like crazy, you know? Like, her dash is safe and fast. You know, she has mix-up options. You know, if your opponent's on the ground and they're not expecting you to cross them up, boom! They've just been crossed up and they don't know how. They didn't expect that. They didn't see that coming. As well as this Rushdown characters. Oftentimes, they are used as mix-up characters nowadays, which I think is the right way to go. But sometimes they also do just have big damaging combos. But what does make a Rushdown character very different is how actually good their close quarters game is. And let me tell you, there's a reason they're called Rushdown. They want to get in and they want to rush you down, and it's because of buttons like this. So this is like crouching medium punch, standing medium punch. All of these buttons are very fast, first of all. They don't have much startup whatsoever. And they're also fairly safe. Have low recovery. Basically, if you got your opponent in the corner, there's no reason not to be using like these moves as like a poke. You know? Like, at this point, what are they going to do? You know? You can mix up with overheads, you can mix up with an aerial grab. Heck, even a cross-up, mix up from the cross-up, you get a grab. This character is going to put you in constant, and I mean constant, rapid-fire decisions. And you need to guess right every time. Every time you need to guess right. Otherwise, this character is going to keep getting you in that hard knockdown, and they're going to keep comboing you. And you're going to lose health like crazy, okay? Rushdown plays can be quite hard sometimes to play. Because of, you know, the technical accuracy, you sometimes need to do the combos or to, you know, to play the neutral. But when you play against a good Rushdown player, you realize, damn, these characters are like top tiers. These characters are basically broken. Look at most fighting games and you will see Rushdown characters being at a high tier, which is a lot of fun, may I add. I do love playing against rushdowns, but goddamn, when a rushdown player is good, it feels like you don't get a turn. It really feels like you don't get a turn. So those are the main ones. Now I'm going to go over subcategories. So different categories in fighting games. So the next character I'll be showing you is Vega. So Vega is what's known as a set play character, which is a subcategory, because although Vega is, you know, primarily set play, I mean, look at these goddamn buttons, man, they're so long. You know, he's also a fundamental character. So although being mainly set play, he also has different archetypes within that, so it's hard to pin down what he is. But overall, you would say he is a set play character, right? So what makes him a set play character? What makes him this subcategory of set play? And that is basically these really long safe pokes. Really long safe pokes. So why would you want to use these long safe pokes? You know what I mean? What's the point in them? What's the point in them when you can be really safe on block when you're right next to your opponent as a rushdown or grappler, right? Now, the thing is with this, set play characters can be deceivingly fast. So, like a grappler can be like kind of very safe on shield and move around really slowly. Set play characters can, you know, move around and also, you know, be safe on shield whilst being quite fast. Vega has a very fast walk speed, for Street Fighter standards anyway. A very far dash too, like because he's also a hypermobility character, but we'll get into that soon. So, set play is crazy. So, that fast walk speed, it means something, it amounts to something. So I want to be going back and forth, I want to be baiting him into doing a move. So Balrog's a traditional example of what a rushdown character is, right? Balrog wants to get in and he wants to bam, 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 he wants to punch you and do so much damage and be so annoying. Now Vega wants to play a lot more patient. He wants to be way more patient than Balrog. Balrog's going to throw out a move and Vega's going to go, nope, wall, I'm going to wall you off, no thanks. Throw out some safe buttons. You know, this is a very safe on block move when it's spaced right. So yeah, it's kind of, to do set play, you have to be good at spacing. You have to know when to punish your opponent. If they whiff a move, you're like, right, this is my time to shine. Because you can linger just outside of their range. And kind of predict burst options. And look at what your opponent can do and go, right, this is what I can do to wall that option out completely. So that's why this character is so good. Whilst I'm on the topic of Vega, I'm actually also going to go over hypermobility characters. So as well as being a set play character, Vega is also a hypermobility character, which you'd think is an amazing combo, but Vega is seen as a low tier character. Although, what makes a hypermobility character good is their ability to jump around the screen, right? Jump around the screen and stay safe, evade from attacks. You know, you want to get out of here, you know? You'll have like a move that goes through projectiles such as this, where you jump off the screen. You know, they often have a wall jump, where they jump off the side of the screen, like so. And yeah, so what makes this character good? Again, they can bait and punish very well. What makes a hypermobility character is the absolute versatility and moveset you can have while still maintaining the hypermobile status. So although Vega is a hypermobility character, he still plays set play because his moves are also hypermobility, which is weird. You sometimes have hypermobility rushdown, which is insane because they'll dodge everything you do and then get right in your face. And, you know, it's terrifying. You don't want to get hit by that. You don't want to get hit. That's terrifying. So yeah, hypermobility, they're good at running away and they're good at approaching. They're good at moving around the screen, bobbing and weaving, trying to duck all your attacks, and being a nuisance in general. They don't want to get hit. They do not want to get hit. Now, what makes a hypermobility character usually is a very low health pool, or a mechanic that makes them take more damage. For example, when Vega loses his mask, when he's been hit too much, it falls off, right? So the mask falls off, and he takes about 1.5 times more damage, which is big, which is huge. huge, especially for a game as footsies heavy as this, where, you know, you don't have extreme 0 to death combos. Yeah, you can get punished really hard as a hypermobility character once they get a grip on you. Again, it's the risk reward of, sure, I don't want to get hit, but then you have to actively try to not get hit whilst trying to land hits in yourself. You know what I mean? It's a hard balance to play, but that's what makes it so effective. People who can play it right and just not get hit, they seem unstoppable. They seem unstoppable, just like any character in a fighting game can be, which is the beauty of fighting games, right? Alright, so here we are in Guilty Gear Strive. Now, there's a reason I'm taking you to Guilty Gear Strive and not Street Fighter for this, and this is literally because the archetype is so niche that Street Fighter doesn't have it. Only some games have it. The only games I can think that have this archetype are Guilty Gear Strive, Skullgirls, and Smash Bros. Technically, because Rosalina. And this is the puppet archetype. So, a puppet character archetype. What the hell even is this character? So, a puppet character isn't controlling just their character. They're also controlling, well, a puppet. They're controlling a puppet. And as we can see, when I do certain inputs, you know, this little guy's moving back and forth, and I can act independently whilst that other puppet does a move. These are, like, possibly the hardest archetype in any fighting game. And I mean in any fighting game because puppet characters are so technical, so difficult, because not only are you learning one moveset for your character, you're learning a secondary moveset for a character that's only out sometimes on a meter, that opens up all your routes, that only has certain moves that you can do with that kind of aspect. So, for example, I don't know, some puppet characters may only have a DP when they have the puppet out, that kind of thing. I can give you an example where Zato, when he's not got the puppet out, doesn't have any way to you know, pressure with large moves. You know, I mean, he has this pretty big normal here, but in Guilty Gear standards, sure, it's big, but it's not crazy. You know, I mean, it's a good move, but it's not crazy. What makes him crazy is, again, look, pressuring from afar, and then he rushes down, all whilst this puppet's doing so much work for him. Now, this opens up some of the most insane combos I have ever seen in my entire life. There is nothing quite like watching someone who's good at a puppet fighter do absolute work. But that's the issue with it. It's work. And so much of it. So much work. As a new player, I would never, ever recommend playing a puppet character because of how hard they are. Realistically, if you play a puppet character perfectly, they could beat almost just about anyone, because they have amazing pressure, they have pretty good zoning with the puppet just being out there. I mean, look, he's out there and, you know, he's a projectile, you know? Like, even there, you know, when he was doing the little tickle monster thing, that's one big block. He's blocking a bunch of stuff so that you don't get hit. They have a great, you know, variety of both offensive and defensive moves, and just create some of the most insane pressure you've seen. But the amount of inputs and, like, how hard it is to do, it's absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, that you don't see them in play unless you are of a certain level. When you get to a certain level of play, you will start seeing these characters, and you will fear to God that you never see one again. They're very good characters, and when fully optimized and done with perfect execution, I would say they're one of the best fighting, like, archetypes in fighting game history. You know, even better than how notoriously good Shotos are, and how notoriously amazing Rushdowns are. When it's perfectly optimized, this is amazing, but the fact is, some games, you need almost, you know, tool-assisted speedrun levels of, you know, accuracy and precision to be able to get some of this stuff off. and, you know, to be able to create this block string and to be able to create all this pressure. So it's terrifying. It's a character where the risk of playing it is you as a player challenging your own execution, which is just such an insane concept, but it works. It works amazingly. But, I mean, with Zato in particular, the character has been seeing some light in tournament recently, and people are not happy about this character nowadays, let me tell you that. Even though this character is easily the hardest in the entire game, he is very good. He is a very strong character. And that's what we are seeing with other games. In Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Rosalina's a puppet character. There's a player called DeBuzz. You know, Rosalina's seen as basically useless. Why would you play Rosalina when so many other characters can do so many different things? But this player, DeBuzz, is so good with execution, and is so good with other, you know, aspects of the game, where it comes to the point where it's like, when used right, this character's broken. I mean, the puppet covers for every single weakness you can think of. It's just a matter of managing that puppet, you know? And that's why this is an amazing archetype, but you'll never see it played. Alright. I really hope you enjoyed that, and I really hope it helped out. I hope it helped you understand what a fighting game archetype is, what the different archetypes are, what they do, what beats what, you know, and I hope it, you know, in the end of the day, helped you find out what type of player you are. Let me know what kind of player you are, actually. I'd love to know. I'd love to know if this helped. But yeah, first of all, I'd like to apologise for rambling so much, and second of all, go. Leave. The video's over, go. No, like, shoo. As in, I don't want you here anymore. Why are you still here? Why are you still... Go! Just go!